So on page 1, we see that we have equations in standard form. They want us to identify the slope, identify the y-intercept, and sketch the graph. Now, when we say that this is in standard form is ax plus by equals c. And when we look for the slope, our slope is going to be negative a over b. A is the number in front of x, b is the number in front of y, and if we want to know the y-intercept, it is going to be c over b. C is the number without a variable, and again, b is the number in front of y. So, if we look at the first one, 4 is a, 7 is b, and negative 14 is c. So if I want the slope, that's going to be negative 4 over 7. And that's my slope. If I want my y-intercept, that is going to be c, which is negative 14, over b, which is 7. And negative 14 divided by 7 is negative 2. So now we can graph. I know my y-intercept is negative 2, so I can put a point down here at negative 2 on the y-axis. My slope tells me to go down 4 over 7, and I know that my next point is actually going to be off the graph somewhere right about down here. I could also do the opposite if I wanted to get a point before the y-axis. Instead of going down 4, right 7, I can go up 4, left 7. And my point would be somewhere off the graph right about here. And now that I have my 3 points, I can put in my line that connects them. And I have my graph. So every time, this is what we're going to repeat. So now if we look at number 2, negative 5 is my A, 4 is my B, and negative 16 is my C. So my slope is negative A, so negative 5 over B, which is 4. And if I have a negative, that becomes positive. And then my y-intercept is C, which is negative 16, over B, which is 4. And negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. So now I can graph. My y-intercept is negative 4, so I'm going to put a point at negative 4 on the y-axis. And my slope is 5 over 4. That tells me go up 5, right 4. and I'm going to put my next point where x is 4 and y is 1. Now that I have my 2 points, I can connect them together extend it in both directions, and we have the graph for number 2. Now we can look at number 3. Negative 1 is my A. Two is my B, and 6 is my C. So my slope is negative A over B. Negative 1 is positive 1. So my slope is 1 over 2. My y-intercept is going to be C over B. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So my y-intercept is 3. That means I put my first point at y equals 3 on the vertical axis. My slope is 1/2, or 1 over 2. So this tells me to go up 1, right 2, and put my next point. And I can do the same thing again. Up 1, right 2, and find a third point. Now with 3 points, I can go ahead and draw my line. And I have my graph. For number 4, A is going to be negative 5. B is going to be 3. And C is going to be negative 9. My slope is negative A over B, and negative 5 is positive 5. So my slope is 5 over 3. My y-intercept is C over B. And negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. So if my y-intercept is negative 3, I'm going to go down to negative 3 on the vertical axis and put my first point. My slope tells me to go up 5, right 3, and I put my second point. Once I have 2 points, I can draw my line that connects them, extend it in both directions, and I have my graph for equation 4. Next, for number 5, negative 2 is my A, 5 is my B, and 10 is my C. My slope is negative a over b. Negative 2 is positive 2, so my slope is 2 over 5. My y-intercept is c over b, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. So if my y-intercept is 2, I'm going to go up to y equals 2 on the vertical axis, and I'm going to place my first point. My slope tells me go up 2 over 5. And I put my second point using my slope. Now that I have 2 points, I can draw my line that connects them, and I have the graph for number 5. For number 6, we can see that our A is negative 6, our B is 5, and our C is negative 10. The slope is negative A over B. Negative 6 is positive 6. So our slope is 6 over 5. Our y-intercept is C over B. And negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. So our y-intercept is at negative 2 on the y-axis. So we place our first point. Then from there, our slope tells us to go up 6 over 5 and place our second point. Now that we have 2 points, we can draw the line that connects them, and we have our graph for number 6. For number 7, A is going to be negative 2, B is 3, and C is 9. My slope is negative A over B. Negative 2 is positive 2. So our slope is 2 over 3. Our y-intercept is C over B. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So my y-intercept is at y equals 3. From here, my slope tells me to go up 2 over 3 and place my second point. From here, I can draw my line connecting them, and I have my graph for number 7. And finally, number 8, A is negative 1, B is 4, and C is negative 16. My slope is negative A over B. Negative negative 1 is positive 1, so our slope is 1 over 4. The y-intercept is C over B, and negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. So we put our y-intercept at negative 4, and from there our slope tells us to go up 1 over 4 and place our second point. Once we have 2 points, we can draw the line that connects them, and we have our graph for number 8. On page 2, we're going to sketch the graph of each line. Number 1, the best way to do this is the same way we did it on the previous page. Negative 5 is our A, 4 is our B, and negative 16 is our C. Our slope is negative A over B. Negative negative 5 is positive 5, so our slope is 5 over 4. The y-intercept is C over B, and negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4. So we can plot the y-intercept at negative 4. Then our slope tells us to go up 5 over 4 and put our second point. Once we have our 2 points, we can draw the line that connects them, and we have our graph. For number 2, standard form allows us to find the x and y intercepts very easily. So for number 2, if we say that x is 0, then that leaves us with 9y equals 18. If we divide both sides by 9, we get y equals 2. So we can plot the y-intercept at y equals 2. Now we do the opposite, and we say that y is 0, and that leaves us 2x equals 18. We divide both sides by 2, and we find out that x equals 9. That one goes off of our coordinate plane, so we're going to need to find the slope in order to graph this one. If you remember, the slope is negative A over B. So our slope is negative 2 over 9. So from here, this tells us to go down 2, right 9. So we would have to draw a point somewhere out here off of the graph. And then we could draw the line that connects them. and we have the graph of our line. The next one, number 3, our slope is going to be negative a over b. Negative 2 is positive 2. So our slope is 2 over 3. The y-intercept is c over b, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. So we can go to y equals 3 and plot the point for our y-intercept, and then our slope tells us to go up 2 over 3 and plot our second point. Now that we have 2 points, we can draw the line that connects them, and we have our graph for number 3. For number 4, negative 4 is A, 3 is B, and negative 6 is C. So our slope is negative A over B. Negative 4 is positive 4. So our slope is 4 over 3. Our y-intercept is C over B, and negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. So we can graph the y-intercept at y equals negative 2, and from this point, the slope tells us to go up 4 over 3 and plot our next point. Once we have 2 points, we can draw the line that connects them, and we have the graph for number 4. For number 5, 5 is A, 3 is B, and 12 is C. So the slope is negative A over B. So the slope is negative 5 over 3. And the y-intercept is C over B. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So we go to y equals 4, and we plot our y-intercept. The slope tells us to go down 5, right 3, and put our next point. Now that we have 2 points, we can draw the line that goes through them. And we have our graph for number 5. For number 6, we can use the intercept method. If we say that x is 0, then we're left with y equals 3. And we can go to y equals 3 and plot the y-intercept. If we do the opposite, and we say that y equals 0, then we're left with x equals 3. We can go to x equals 3 and plot our x-intercept, and now that we have 2 points, we can draw the line that goes through them, and we have our graph for number 6. For number 7, -6 is A, 5 is B, and -10 is C. So the slope is -A over B. -6 is +6, so our slope is 6 over 5. The y-intercept is C over B, and -10 divided by 5 is -2. So we can plot the y-intercept at y equals -2. From this point, the slope tells us to go up 6, right 5, and plot our second point. Now that we have 2 points, we can draw the line that goes through both of them, and we have the graph for number 7. And finally, number 8, -5 is A, 3 is B, and -9 is C. The slope is -A over B. -5 is +5, so the slope is 5 over 3. The y-intercept is C over B, and -9 divided by 3 is -3. So we can plot the y-intercept at y equals -3. Then the slope tells us to go up 5, right 3, and plot the second point. Now that we have 2 points, we can draw the line that goes through both, and we have the graph for number 8. For page number 3, it asks what is the slope of each line. Remember that your slope is the change in y over the change in x. So if we look at the starting point, the y value is 2, and at the end point, the y value is -4. That is a change of -6. Again, look at your start point, and the starting point has an x value of -5, and the end point has an x value of positive 5. That is a change of 10. And negative 6 over 10 is negative 3 over 5. So the slope is negative 3/5. For number 2, we can see that the y value starts at 5 and ends at 1. That is a change of minus 4. And the x value starts at negative 5 and ends at positive 5. That is a change of 10. And negative 4 divided by 10 is negative 2/5. For number 3, if we look at the first point, we see that y has a value of negative 5. If we look at the end point, we see that y has a value of positive 5. This is a change of positive 10. Now we look at how much the x value changed. We start with x at negative 2. We end with x at negative 1. That is a change of positive 1. And 10 divided by 1 is 10. So our slope is 10. For number 4, in the beginning, y has a value of positive 5. At the end, y has a value of negative 5. That is a change of negative 10. For x, in the beginning, the x value is negative 5, and at the end, the x value is positive 5. That is a change of positive 10. And negative 10 divided by 10 is negative 1. So the slope for number 4 is negative 1. In the next section, they're giving us slope-intercept form linear equations, and they want us to identify the slope. Remember that in slope-intercept form, the number in front of the x is always your slope. So for number 5, my slope is 7. In number 6, again, we look at the number in front of the x. So our slope for number 6 is 1 over 10. Number 7, we find our x. We look at the number in front of the x. And our slope is 7 over 9. And number 8, we look for our x. We find the number in front of the x. And our slope is 2 over 3. And at the bottom of the page, they want us to write the slope-intercept form and plot the equation of each line when they give us the slope and y-intercept. So when we write the equation, it always starts with y equals. Then we will have the slope, so negative 4. Then we'll always have our x, and then we have the y-intercept. So in this case, that's minus 2. Now, when we're graphing, we know that our y-intercept is at negative 2. So we go to negative 2 on the y-axis, and we draw our first point. Our slope is negative 4. That means we go down 4, right 1, and we put a point. If we wanted to find a point to the left of the y-axis, we can do the exact opposite. Instead of down 4, right 1, we can go up 4, left 1. And we can find a point on the left side of the y-axis. And now we can draw our line that goes through all of them. And we have our graph for number 9. And finally, number 10, when we're writing the equation, it will always start with y equals. Then we put our slope, so negative 3/2 x, and then our y-intercept, which in this case is positive 2. And now that we have our equation, we can graph. The y-intercept is positive 2, so we plot our point at 2 on the y-axis. Our slope tells us to go down 3, right 2, and put our next point. Again, if I wanted a point to the left of the y-axis, I could do the exact opposite. Instead of down 3, right 2, I can go up 3, left 2, and I can find a point on this side of the y-axis. And now I can draw my line that goes through all of them, and we have our graph for number 10. And finally, on page 4, they're giving us a graph and asking us to write the equation from each line. So, if you notice in number 1, we can see the y-intercept labeled with the red point. So we can start writing y equals. We know that our intercept is going to be plus 3. And now we can find our slope. We look for another point where the line goes right through crosshairs. And we can see one down here at x equals negative 2. To go from this point to our y-intercept, we can see that we need to go up 3 over 2. So that means our slope is 3 over 2, and we put in our x. And now we have our equation for number 1. For number 2, we can see that our y-intercept is at negative 2. So we can put minus 2 at the end of our equation. Now we look for another point where the line goes right through the crosshairs, and we can put it right here at x equals 4, y equals negative 1. So now we can see to go from the first point to the second, we need to go up 1 over 4. So our slope is 1 over 4. And we have our equation for number 2. Number 3, we can start with y equals, leave a space, and put our x. We can see that our y-intercept is at -1. So we put -1 at the end of our equation. Now we look for another point where the line goes through the crosshairs, and we could put it right down here on the bottom at the end of the line. To go from the y-intercept to this end point, we see that we need to go down 4 over 3. So our slope would be -4 over 3. And now we have the equation for number 3. For number 4, again, we can go ahead and say y equals, leave a space for the slope, and put x. Now we find our y-intercept down here at -4, so we put -4 at the end of the equation. We find another good point, and we can see one right here at x equals 1, y equals -2. To go from the y-intercept to the next point, we can see that we go up 2 over 1. And anytime we have a number over 1, that's just the whole number. So 2 over 1 is 2, and now we have the equation for number 4. Number 5, we start with y equals, leave a space, and put our x. We see that our y-intercept is at -1, so we end our equation with -1. We find another point right here where the x-intercept is at x equals 2, y equals 0. To go from the y-intercept to the x-intercept, we can see that we go up 1 over 2, so our slope is 1 over 2. And we have the equation for graph number 5. Number 6, we start out with y equals, leave a space, and put x. We see that the y-intercept is at +4, so we end our equation with +4. We find another good point on the line, and we have one at the x-intercept where x equals 1, y equals 0. To go from the y-intercept to the x-intercept, we go down 4 over 1. That would be -4 over 1. And anytime we have a number over 1, it's just that number. So our slope is -4. And now we have the equation for graph number 6. Number 7. We start with y equals, leave a space, and put x. We see that the y-intercept is at +4, so we end the equation with +4. We find another good point right here at x equals 1, y equals 3. To go from the y-intercept to the second point, we go down 1 over 1. That would be -1 over 1, which equals -1. And you don't have to put the 1, it's understood. So you can just write -x plus 4. And finally, number 8, we start with y equals, leave a space, and put x. We see that the y-intercept is at -3, so we end the equation with -3. We find another good point, and we have one where x is 2 and y is -4. We can see to go from the y-intercept to the next good point, we go down 1 over 2. So that's -1 over 2. And now we have all the equations to represent the graphs.